Welcome in. My name is Jason with Smart Part Solutions, and in today's how-to video, we're going to be discussing how to remove and reinstall your flow sensor. Now, as you know, on the right-hand side, you'll see a list of different models and branding. These flow sensors are specific to all of the units on your right-hand side. Now, these come with two different flow sensor. For today, we're going to be discussing the HA-PO22 flow sensor assembly. In today's walkthrough, we are going to be going step by step on how to replace this entire assembly, not just the front cover which contains the chip inside with the wire that connects to the control board, nor just the impeller. We're going to change the entire assembly to make sure that everything is brand new when we reinstall this flow sensor. So let's go ahead and dive right in. So step number one is safety first. Let's go ahead and make sure that we shut off the breaker that is powering our tankless water heater. And we'll do this by shutting off the double amp pole breakers. You should have two that are going separate to this unit, one for each element. Be sure to power it off and test the terminal block to verify that there is no incoming voltage with a multimeter or a voltmeter. Now, step number three is to verify to make sure that your power is off at the unit's terminal block. Again, safety is first, and these steps are for certified plumbers and electricians. You'll want to use a voltmeter at your terminal block or a multimeter. Either one will work. You just want to verify that there's no power coming to this unit. Now, once we verify that there's no voltage coming to the unit, the next step is to go ahead and shut off the water to this unit. So we'll cut the water. We'll open up a faucet so we could flush this unit out. Once it's flushed completely, you'll want a rag because step number four is to remove that front cap of the flow sensor. So we're going to go ahead and remove this. Now, water may seep out slightly. That's why you want a dry rag or some paper towel just to clean up any water that may come out of this unit. Now this is a test unit or a demo unit for us, and there won't be any water coming out of here, but for you, at this point, water may flow out slightly. Now I'm going to remove that front cover, and there's an O-ring here that may pop out. You see it almost came out for me. I'm going to put it back in its place. Now we're going to set that to the side. Now we want to go ahead and remove our impeller that is freely spinning. If it's in good shape, go ahead and save this. Put this in a safe area. This is something we could use for future issues that may occur in your impeller. So it's always good to keep those units as backups. So you want to keep your screws, you want to keep your O-rings, and that impeller if it's in good shape. Now your next step may require two pliers. We want to go ahead and loosen up the bottom of it, and yours might be a little bit tight, so just take your time, be very patient. As you can see, this came off pretty easily. So we're going to go ahead and take this down. And we're almost at the bottom of it. And it's now dropped. Now the next step is to go ahead and release the flow sensor. So we could try to do it by hand. Chances are it won't make it. So we're going to need our pliers once again here. So we'll loosen up the bottom of it here and try to get it loose to where we can go hand and just remove that flow sensor, at least from the bottom or from the top. Either way, it'll work out. Now again, here's where you might get some water leaking out. You just want to dry it up as you take this off. And once it's nice and soft, you might be able to just do it by hand here. Now the last step is to remove that flow sensor out of there. Again, this is for the entire assembly, so we're going to go ahead and try to release it from its location. Yours might be a little bit tight because you're going to have some calcium buildup. As you can see, it's coming out fairly easily here. Alright, and just like that, we've removed our old flow sensor. As you can see, this is a demo. We did have this running water for quite some time, so there is some calcium buildup, and it is a little bit dirty. Now our next step is to go ahead and take off that front panel so we can release the control board, the flow sensor's front cover, which has the control board inside of it, from the actual control board. So I'm going to go ahead and remove that front cover. And you want to make sure you save these. These are very tiny screws, so you want to put them in a secure place so you can go ahead and put that control board back into its position once we've completed this entire process. And once again, make sure you put these in a safe place because you don't want to lose or misplace these. As you can see, they're very tiny screws. And last one we have here at the top right. This should release your front panel of your control board. And then you could take that front cover off. Now for this step, I might cover it up a little bit here, but you'll see that white plug right here that I'm moving. This is what you're gonna unplug. There's a little tiny clip, and I'm gonna try to do my best to give you an angle here. And you just wanna hold that clip and softly pop it out of the control board. So we've now successfully removed the old flow sensor assembly and disconnected the old board from that assembly. So I wanted to show you the inside of it. And the reason I'm doing this is because there's an O-ring inside of here. If this O-ring over age just expands and water or condensation or anything builds up here, that could be a reason why your flow sensor has failed. And this is the old one here. Just wanted to show you it for reference. Now our next step is to go ahead and reinstall the new one. Now with the new one, what I did was I went ahead and took off the old board and I kind of exposed it. This is going to make it a lot easier to reinstall this new one. So the next step is to go ahead and introduce it back into its old position. And we're going to just tighten that up hand tight. Everything will be tightened completely at the very end here. So we just want to kind of present it as best as possible. Let's try to give it another one more turn here. As you can see, it doesn't want to turn anymore. I'm going to try to hold that brass fitting in there. And that's all I got right now. So the next step here is to reintroduce it back into its original position. And let's go ahead and screw that back in. Now one of the things you want to reference here is these O-rings. You want these O-rings to essentially disappear. You don't want to see the bottom O-ring or the top one to make sure that it's sealed properly. So I'm going to go ahead and give it as much as I can by hand, because these units, you want to make sure you don't over tighten anything here. And I think that's pretty much all I could give by hand here, nice and tight. Now I'm going to go ahead and get our pliers, and you might be able to do this with one, you may need the second one. So let's go ahead and take a look if I can tighten this up here with just one, but it will spin freely once you get it too tight, and it might all spin around with you together. So let's try to get that all situated here. And again, you don't want to over tighten anything too much. All right, we're getting really tight here. We'll give it one more quarter turn here. Try to hold it in place. Now you want to make sure that this pipe is nice and tight as well, because you're going to reintroduce this nut back into it and try to tighten it back up. And again, like usual, we just want to try to hand tighten everything. That's just about as much as I can go with my hands. Now with all that in place, we're going to go ahead and reintroduce our impeller back into its specific location. Again, this is a brand new one. We're not using anything from the old one. We're just saving those as replacement parts. And then the next step is to go ahead and put on that front cover again. Now, for the front cover, you want to make sure that the wire is aiming towards the control board itself. And what I like to do is potentially try to kind of hand tighten these a little bit before I come in with the Phillips head screwdriver. And again, be very cautious. You don't want to over tighten anything.
I like to do about 50% of the way, and then I'll finalize it nice and tight. Again, there's O-rings to make sure there's no leakage occurring. And we'll test this prior to giving it its full course of water influx. All right, so we've pretty much tightened this all the way. Now we do want to reconnect that wire back to the control board, so we'll do that next. Now our next step is to reintroduce the cable back into the control board itself. Now I might block a little bit, but you can see that white port there, right where we removed it from before. I just put it right back in. And you're gonna want to assemble your cabling as needed to make sure you can close that back up and that it's all nice and clean so we can reinstall everything. Now that our flow sensor's control panel is connected to the control board itself, now we're going to go ahead and reintroduce water slightly into the unit to make sure that we are not having any leakage. Okay, so we'll open up the water flow, make sure nothing's leaking, and we'll constantly open up more and more to verify that there's no leaking. If there's no leaking, we're good to go. If you do have some leaking, clean it up. Go ahead and retighten all the bolts. Make sure everything is nice and snug in this position. Once that's done, the next step is to open the water wide open and let water run through that faucet for about 1 to 2 minutes at minimum. The reason we do this is to make sure that there's no air gaps within the unit itself, because if so, that can cause a lot of damage to the actual heating elements once they're activated. Now, once we've had water flowing through the unit successfully, no more air gaps, we're going to go ahead and reintroduce power back to the unit. So we'll go ahead and turn on the breakers. Once the breakers have been activated, water's flowing through the unit, you should now see your control board illuminating, showing you the desired temperature consistently while the water is flowing to the unit, indicating that your flow sensor is now functioning.
If you enjoyed today's troubleshooting video, like and subscribe, and visit us at smartparts.us for any of your tankless water heater needs.